Now then, what if I was to tell you that you could run faster on as few as 3 run sessions per week? How so, I hear you asking?
Well, by stripping away those needless extra miles and making your training more specific with these 3 key workouts. Amazingly, you can actually gain far more from your training.
Yeah, now this is something that we have both done for years, as well as most pro triathletes and runners. So we're going to run you through those 3 workouts and how they benefit you.
That you need a bit of variety when it comes to running if you want to improve, but sometimes it's all too easy to head out for that run and just stick in your comfort zone. And if you do that for all of your training, you're going to struggle to get out of your comfort zone when it comes to racing, and that's not going to help you get any faster. And ultimately, the reason we train is because we want to run faster.
Exactly. So on that note, there are 3 key workouts that we should all be doing as triathletes and runners to avoid falling into that trap. And personally, I believe these workouts are must-do workouts. And any extra mileage merely serves as a purpose to kind of further build upon our aerobic fitness and base. So these 3 workouts are your speed workout, we also have a tempo or threshold workout, and then finally we have your long run.
Well, we're going to be going into detail in each of those, but first let's take a look at the speed session.
Yeah, a speed session is as it says on the tin, really. It involves running fast, and we tend to do these kind of sessions in intervals at, near or above our VO2 max, which for most runners equates to around 3 to 5k run pace.
Well, obviously we are all different, so it's going to depend on your current fitness, the pace you usually run at, and also your race goals. So it really doesn't matter if, say, you're running 3-minute Ks or 7 to 8-minute Ks. As long as you're feeling like you're working hard, then you know it's going to be working.
Exactly, and by running faster, it is actually enabling us to tap into these top-end speeds and essentially unlocking this greater speed range within ourselves. And actually, by running fast, it can also help to improve our efficiency as runners. And we all know that efficiency is what we're striving for. By being more efficient, we can run faster.
Well, the key, as you say, Mark, to these sessions is actually hitting those top-end speeds. So in order to do that and to get the benefit from it, we're actually going to break it down into intervals or reps. One example workout is the minute hard, minute easy session. As the name suggests, after warming up, just start to run harder, but not quite flat out for 1 minute, followed by an easy minute. Repeat this 4 to 6 times to start with, and then gradually increase the number by 1 or 2 reps each week. Another example workout is the old favourite, K repeats. These are beneficial no matter what distance you're training for. You can do fewer repeats at a faster pace. So for example, 4 lots of 1 kilometre at 3 to 5k pace, or more repeats at a slower pace, such as 8 lots of 1k at your 10k to half marathon pace. And then take somewhere between 1 to 2 minutes recovery between each rep. So the question is, when in your week would you want to fit in these speed workouts, and also how would they fit in that overall training plan?
Well, that is a very important question, actually, and you can do speed workouts anytime throughout the year relative to when you'll be racing, but in my experience, you really don't want to start these speed workouts too soon or too far out from that target race or the first race of the season. So I'd suggest starting around 3 to maybe even 4 months out from that race, and then building them up so that you've got your more challenging and meaty sessions in the sort of last 6 weeks before the race.
Yeah, I mean, that works well to sort of prevent you from hopefully getting that stale feeling you can if you start training too hard, too far out from your race. And ideally, it's best to try and do this session once a week. And a good time of the week would be, say, a Tuesday. It's often when I do my key sessions, because you've had hopefully enough time to recover from your long run that you might have done on the weekend, and then enough time to recover from that actual session before you've got your tempo run later in the week.
And that leads us nicely on to the tempo run, which, as the name suggests, is at a pace that is by no means flat out, but is significantly faster than our normal average run pace.
Yeah, you might also sometimes hear it called threshold pace, but ultimately it's comfortably hard, and running at that pace for long periods of time will just help you get used to that challenging, uncomfortable feeling and adapt it to your run.
Exactly, and this tempo pace fits just a fraction below our lactate threshold. Now, our lactate threshold is the point at which we start to accumulate lactic acid in our bloodstream at a faster rate than we can shunt it out and remove it from our bodies. So by running at this tempo pace, just below that limit and never tipping over into that red zone, we can sustain longer durations at that pace, ultimately pushing our fitness up and that lactate threshold up to a higher run pace.
Yeah, so basically this session is designed to improve your speed endurance, which basically means that you can run faster for longer. So to ensure you're running at a tempo pace, it should be around an 8 out of 10 intensity on the rating of perceived exertion scale. You'll be able to say a few words to a training partner, but you definitely won't be able to hold a full conversation. Your heart rate should be somewhere between 85 and 90% of your maximum. And to work out your pace, you can add 30 to 40 seconds per kilometre to your current 5k race pace, or 15 to 20 seconds per kilometre to your current 10k race pace.
Now, the length of these sessions is obviously all relative to what you're training for and your current fitness level. But let's say you are training for a 5 or 10k run race or a sprint or Olympic distance triathlon. Then you might want to do a 15 to 20 minute block of tempo work, obviously sandwiched between a good warm up and cool down. Now that could work really well, but if you're doing slightly longer distances, above 10k and above Olympic distance triathlons, then you might want to build this up to tempo blocks of around 30 minutes and more. Now, these can obviously be split and broken into slightly smaller blocks if you need to. Now, one good example would be 3 by 5 minutes at tempo pace with 1 minute jog recovery between each rep. You can then build this to 4 or 5 reps of 5 minutes with the same jog recovery, and then increase the rep durations to something like 2 by 10 minutes with 1 to 2 minutes jog recovery. Or if you're targeting the longer events, then I like to do something like 3 by 10 minutes or 2 by 15 at tempo with 1 to 2 minutes jog recovery between.
Well, I normally put this session in at least 2 days after my speed workout, so I've fully recovered from that, and then I can really make sure I focus well on the tempo run. So for example, if I choose to do my speed workout on a Tuesday, then I look at doing this somewhere between Thursday and Saturday. And this is actually a type of session that you can start to build a little bit earlier, so even 6 or 7 months before the bulk of your race season.
And then we have the long run, which is the slowest of the 3, but just as important for our overall fitness and for our running progression. Now, ultimately, it's there to improve our endurance and to build our base on which to work from.
Well, the key to getting the most out of your long run is hitting the correct pace. So it needs to be at a conversational pace, basically entirely aerobic, and you should be able to find a pace that you can start with and carry on for the whole of the run and potentially even a little bit further. If you work to heart rate zones, then it should predominantly be zone 2, but touching into the bottom of zone 3 or even the top of zone 1 is also okay. And then on the RPE scale, it's around a 3 to 4 out of 10. Sticking to an exact pace is not essential, especially if you're running off-road, but to give you an example, my long runs I run at a pace anywhere between 8 to 8:30 minute miles or 5 to 6 minute kilometers.
Now, how far you should be doing for these long runs is a little bit dependent on the distance of the race that you're targeting and also how much running your legs are used to doing. So let's take a 5k for instance, or a sprint distance triathlon. You needn't be doing much more than an hour for those long runs. But if we step it up to a half marathon or a Ironman 70.3 distance, then you can start to look at around an hour and a half for your long run, maybe even up to 2 hours. But as we start to go beyond that for a marathon or an Ironman distance event, you can start to go even up to 3 hours. But I'd say cap it at the 3 hours, because actually extending beyond that and actually increasing your long runs too fast without the necessary mileage behind that can actually start to accumulate too much stress, and that stress can outweigh the physiological advantages. So I'd say save that for race day.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're wondering what distance you need to run, then think of your normal run and do 1.5 to twice the length of that. But another option would be to split your long run into a double run day. So say you don't have time to fit the whole long run in one go, then you can do part of it in the morning and then have at least 4 hours rest before doing the second part. It's ideally if you do a slightly longer part first thing in the day and then the shorter second half of it later on. And it's also a great way to prevent injury.
Well, there we go. That is the 3 key run workouts that Heather and myself have been doing for years, and it really does hit all aspects of fitness for running particularly for triathlon over all the distances.
Yeah, well, let us know how you get on with any of those sessions and give us a thumb up like if you've enjoyed this video. Hit the globe to subscribe to make sure you get all of our videos here at GTN. And more importantly, if you're into running, you want to check out our Run Week content, then we've got a playlist for you just here.